Has Tito lost his touch with the Guardians? After Sam Hentges blew another late-inning lead, he took out Savali after 87 pitches. And at some point, Bull, you said it the other day, you think this is his worst season yet. Has he lost the touch? Am I over-exaggerating or overplaying what we've seen this year? But it seems like time after time again, they've had chances to close out games late, and it just hasn't ended up in wins.
Well, let me start. No, he hasn't lost his touch. I think the argument of has a guy lost his touch, it's when Tony La Russa has been out of baseball for 15 years and then comes back. It's when John Gruden's been sitting in the studio for 10, 15 years and then tries to come back. That's when the game changes and evolves beyond what they are accustomed to. The game has not evolved beyond Terry Francona. He's been there every step of the way. He's not taken any time away. He took, 1 year off to go to ESPN or whatever. That doesn't count. The game hasn't changed. Has they had some bad luck this year? Yes. Has he made questionable decisions? Yeah, of course, sure. Every manager has. Hentges is blowing up on him. He loves Sam Hentges. So I remember when Hentges was first coming up, and there was the comparisons to Andrew Miller, and this could be a Miller type, and they used him as a starter. It didn't work out. They put him in this reliever role. You're not always going to hit the right button. It doesn't mean he's lost his touch. Savali, I don't think they have a ton of faith in him, frankly, to go very deep into games to get over that 100-pitch mark. I think, Zach Meisel wrote about today. You referenced a story, Bull, that Zach had on The Athletic today, that he got tired after, I forget how many pitches he threw in his last start, 79 or That's 81 weak. Or something like that. And we saw it actually with the Yankees early in the year, yanking Domingo Germán after 5 innings almost every start, whether it's not wanting to give them another look.
Perfect game, oddly.
I know, and then he pitched a perfect game after he got blown up for 2 or 3 starts. It could do with where they were at in the lineup and not wanting to see guys another time through. There's multiple factors that go into it. I don't think Tito's lost his touch at all. He's a Hall of Fame manager. He hasn't taken any time away from the game. He has kept up. For being an old school manager, I think Tito has sort of integrated more of the advanced analytics, and he's embraced that more than a lot of the old school guys have. I think he's just fine. It's just one of those years.
I will say this about Tito. I agree with Jason that I don't think the game has passed him by. However, he's not had a particularly good first half. Mm-hmm. Managers can go into slumps too. Managers can you're making the bad decisions, whatever, it happens. I think there's a couple of things here. As great a manager as Tito is and has always been and is absolutely a Hall of Famer. He's been a magnificent manager across the board. Anybody in the game will tell you that. Any player that's played for him loves him. His in-game managing has never been the strength of his being a manager. His strength is his ability to relate to players and to connect with players in different ways and get the most out of them. That's the most important thing to me as a manager, and that's his strength. His in-game management at times has lacked, especially with handling the bullpen, and I think it's been a little worse this year. I will say his loyalty to Miles Straw is baffling. I don't want to hear, every time I bring this up, somebody says to me, well, they're paying him. Who cares? They got to pay him whether he starts. So because they're paying him, that means he has to play every day? That doesn't make any sense. So his loyalty to Straw is baffling to me. Why he plays pretty much every day is insane. There is no world in which Miles Straw is an everyday player. He is the least productive hitter in baseball. He has not been as good defensively this year if you look at the analytics on it. He's been more, pretty good, not elite this year. Just because you win a Gold Glove once doesn't make you the best outfielder in baseball. He shouldn't be playing every day. That's simple. But Terry Francona is still a good manager who's having a bad year. Hopefully, the second half will be better, as has been the case many times. Now, I've consistently picked them to still win this division, but I've started to lose my faith in this. A lot of it because of key injuries to Bieber. We're not going to see Bieber till at least sometime in August. Zach pointed out in the article he's probably thinking late August, early September. I doubt you'll see McKenzie at all the rest of the season. So that's your 2 best pitchers, or the guys who have been your 2 best pitchers. So to me, the Guardians are in a tough spot because they're in a crappy division, so they're not out of it. I don't think they have much of a realistic chance to win in the postseason. However, as Zach pointed out, if it's a big if, Bieber and McKenzie were healthy and pitching well, and they did make the playoffs, they would have a good enough pitching staff to compete. But their lineup is so bad. Even Antonetti admitted the lineup has taken a step backwards, which he never really admits things like that, which is crazy. Now think about this. Josh Naylor, 75 ribbies is insane. Even Jose Ramirez is not on pace for 100 ribbies.
Oh, no.
Right.
He had it down here, too.
Yeah. Now, let's give Josh Bell a little credit. He's played better here. And if you look at his numbers right now, they're not terrible.
If he could play against his former team 162 games, he'd be an all-star. Because he hammered the Pirates and he hammered the Nationals.
Yeah. Well,
Listen,
I'm so done with Josh. I'm just done with him.
he hasn't been that awful.
I'm done with him.
He has been better.
$16.5 million.
I'm not saying he's worth the money. I'm saying he's been a little better. I wish they could get rid of him. I'd be happy. It's not good enough.
I don't.
But he's not been. He's been better.
There's two things that baffle me, and I need
Yeah.
to figure out what it is. Because it seems like anybody that I ask, they take turns kicking back and forth between these two different bodies, entities. Whose decision is it that Miles Straw is playing every day? Who does that come down to?
manager.
Okay.
That's Tito.
Yeah.
Whose decision is it that Oscar Gonzalez he got 25 games and that was it?
That's the front office. I mean, I think if Tito really wanted Oscar up, he'd be up.
I agree with that.
Right.
So my thing is that's a huge problem for me, because the Guardians operate in a way where they seem to be rational adults in the room, but there's some certain things where they go way to the end of the road, like boys to men, like with these guys, and it's already it's
with
written.
Oscar Gonzalez, here's what I don't understand. Again, I'll
written.
reference Zach's very excellent article in The Athletic, where he talked about Gonzalez. He said Gonzalez will be up soon. There's still complaints in the organization that he's undisciplined at the plate. If the Guardians lineup was full of good hitters, I could understand that argument. And Zach points out, well, Josh Naylor was much less disciplined earlier in his career, and the reason he has blossomed this year is because he's become more disciplined at the plate. Well, Josh Naylor's in like his 5th, 6th season.
Yeah.
Why does Oscar Gonzalez has been on fire at AAA? In particular, he's been killing lefties.
Yeah.
And there is zero reason not to have him in the majors when you have zero production from your outfield. It's insane. Even if he's still undisciplined, let him work on it in the majors, where at least he's going to run into some home runs.
That's drinking your own Kool-Aid. They're getting high off their own supply right now.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the luxury of saying, hold plate discipline. That's something you work. Listen, at that level, you're losing games 2-1, and we talk about the bullpen all the time. Oh, the bullpen's having a tough year. How would you like to have your job always come down to you coming in the game and it's like 2 people on and you got to get people out? The Guardians almost as an organization seem like runs are bad. Home runs are bad. You need 2 or 3 people that don't have plate discipline to hit your 30 home runs. I don't think they understand that. And for them to keep trotting these people out with no power and then just say, well, you're reading into the analytics way too much if you start to say people in the organization are upset. And if Tito, if he's the guy, at some point he said, hold on, this is the reason I'm Tito and I'm the Hall of Famer. You guys go get me some players. Yeah. I'll coach the guys we got. We need to bring them on up.
Yeah. And Jason, one other thing, again, in Zach's article, he points out, well, Antonetti's saying that Freeman and Arias, it's hard for them to play well when they're not well, maybe you should send Arias back to the minors. Maybe Arias should be in the minors and Oscar Gonzalez should be up, and that would create more playing time for Arias at AAA, where he's been miserable in the majors. And it would give a little more playing time to Freeman and move on from Rosario, which he also points out.
Well, what's funny is in spring training they were saying they can't carry Freeman and Arias together because there's too much overlap. Well, that's exactly what they're doing now is carrying them together.
Yes.
So everything they said in spring training, they've now pivoted basically 180 degrees on.
Right.
But the whole Gonzalez thing, the one he needs to be taking at bats from is Miles Straw, and I don't know.
100%.
And I don't know that they're ready to make that.
I mean, you have to.
Move. I agree. Listen, I said Brennan, Kwan, Straw, which is not going to pick one of them as your center fielder, go get 2 new corner bats.
That's right.
at least get Gonzalez and move Brennan to center. Although
Yeah.
I still would like Quan in center and 2 new corner guys and make Brennan your 4th outfielder.
Right.
I don't know how this ends with Miles Straw. I don't know how this is going to end. There's a lot of guaranteed money committed to him. I don't know how they're going to get off that, if they even want to get off that. But the move for Gonzalez is to take at bats away from Miles Straw, and I don't know if they're ready to do that.
I mean,
I know.
think about that. That's
I know.
insane.
I know.
It's crazy. Oscar Gonzalez, let Gabriel Arias play every day. Ahmed Rosario, who's been much better for the last month, has to be gone. We have to see one of these young guys play every day.
I agree.
So I think Tyler Freeman's been better than Arias in part-time play. I want to see Tyler Freeman get a crack at playing shortstop every day. So they either need to trade Rosario, which obviously you're not getting, you're getting minimal return, fine. He's going to be gone next year anyway, so you might as well. If you have to, you cut him. I don't care.
DFA him, whatever.
But they could get something.
You would get a single A.
Whatever. A lottery ticket.
Yeah.
They've had some success with those lottery tickets. Trade him for a lottery ticket and put Tyler Freeman there every day. And then I would let Arias go to the minors right now, let him play for a few weeks, build some confidence up, and then bring him back in August, have Freeman play every day, or maybe split time with Arias where at least they're both getting a good amount of at-bats. So let's go here. This is bullshit that Oscar Gonzalez is in the minors because Miles Straw's got to get at-bats. It's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life.
Is there really? I just popped in my head. We talk about there's always serious pressure on the Browns, right?
Yeah.
There's pressure down on the Cavs. Do you think that there is ever really any life-changing pressure on the Guardians? I don't. I think they're just they're here, and if they do something, it blips up a little bit. But there's no there's no mob saying Tiki Torch mob saying we're middlings.
Amongst the diehard Guardians community, there's some people that are a little frustrated with Tito at this point and think they should move on. I'm not one of those people, but there is some sentiment.
Yeah.
But there's no pressure.
Is there pressure to win or be fired in terms of front office people? No. In Tito? No. They're not going anywhere. Nor should they.
No, not really. I'm just saying, do you think that I've never really seen the expectation for them to be, oh, no, you got to go to the World Series.
Well, that's because they've always been good. And so when you're always good, I mean, I know he won a Super Bowl earlier in his career, but Mike Tomlin has been mediocre for a long time, right? He hasn't won a playoff game in a lot of years, but a lot of the fans want to fire him in Pittsburgh, but the front office is not going to fire him. They're like, this guy's a really good coach. Why would we fire him?
Right.
And in baseball in particular, it's frustrating, but the playoffs are a crapshoot. Let's face it. That Guardians team in 2016, even though they were one win away from the World Series, had no business getting to the World Series, whereas the 2017 team, which lost in the first round after blowing an 0-2 lead, was a way better team.
It was a better team. 17 was a more talented team
than 16.
Yes.
The 16 team was held together by duct tape.
Corey Kluber and Andrew Miller got you to
Allen,
Game 7.
Cody Allen did a good job. Those three guys, they had nothing else.
Yeah.
And they got to Game 7 of the World Series with three pitchers, essentially. One starter and two good relievers. One reliever was all-world, and one other reliever was good. That was it. And so it's a bit of a crapshoot. And yes, the Guardians have failed in the postseason the last few years, but since these guys have been here, all they've known is winning. The worst record they had was 80-82 in the decade they've been here. So it's hard to say they should have pressure to be fired at this point because of one surprisingly bad year.
No, I wouldn't say fired.
Yeah.
Usually teams that are good.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Philadelphia Eagles under Andy Reid.
Yeah.
At some point in time, it's like, hey, I know you've been to these championships, these NFC championships, but this year we got to get over the hump.
Right.
Is there usually you got a honeymoon period of 4 years, 5 years, but soon somebody says,
Andy Reid was there a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Because he was great. And eventually there was time. And maybe eventually there'll be a time with this team, but I don't think we're close to that yet.
No. When the pressure comes is when new ownership comes in.
Yes, that's right.
That's when the pressure gets ratcheted up.
That's true. We'll see how they do between now and then.
Right.
But I think at this trade deadline, in the end, I think the Guardians, what are they buying? They can't buy. They have nothing. It's a weird. They may do both, I guess. But I would definitely trade Savali because to me his value will never be higher than it is now. And the pitching market, in terms of what's available, is thin. I mean, who's out there? Marcus Stroman's having a Cy Young type of season, but he can opt out at the end of this year. So and he's pitching better than he should be. Now, so is Savali, and Stroman's better than Savali. Scherzer could be available. Verlander could be available, but I don't know that the Mets are going to sell. As bad as they've been,
they're not going to sell.
I still think you look at the other bad teams that might sell. Kansas City's got no starting pitching. Oakland's got no starting pitching to trade. St. Louis has got no starting pitching to trade. Like all these teams, all these bad teams don't have any starting pitching. The Cubs have, as I said, Stroman. Now the White Sox depends what the White Sox do. They have some interesting pitchers there.
Yep.
Who else? The Angels, if they trade Ohtani. By the way, Colin Cowherd. Did you guys all see that thing?
I was going to bring that up at the end of this conversation to put a bow tie on baseball.
I mean,
do you want to get to it now?
Yeah,
that was bad.
Yeah.
That was really
You want to play
bad.
the clip? Or
Yeah, give me a sec. I'll find the clip.
Colin Cowherd. I'm not a huge Colin Cowherd fan. I respect him because he's highly successful in the business. He's found a niche. He's not my cup of tea. I don't really care for him, but I respect him, and obviously, again, he's very accomplished.
We have the clip. You ready?
This is okay. This is him talking about Shohei Ohtani and what the Angels should do.
He's really an all-time talent. But the question is, what do the Angels do? Do they trade him and get a bevy of picks back? I would love to do that. That's what I would do. Or do you roll the dice and try to sign him because no GM, and he's really an all-time talent.
If you're not a big baseball fan, maybe you don't realize how cringeworthy that is.
How do you not have someone on the show say you can't do that?
Yeah.
Like, how does someone not have a
There's
break
no
pedal?
draft pick trades in baseball.
I thought like when I heard it, I thought like in his mind he was thinking
a bunch of minor
prospects.
leaguers.
So when you say picks and prospects, like it's kind of the same thing.
I guess he could have
like
meant
you
that.
get a bevy of prospects.
That's
back.
giving him a pretty big benefit of the doubt.
I mean,
I mean, it's possible that's what he meant, but why wouldn't you say? I mean, nobody says draft picks when it comes to baseball.
Yeah.
And like for an average fan not to know that's fine. That's not your job.
Right.
For like my beef with Colin Cowherd is a beef I have with a lot of people in this business. Is they think they got to be experts on everything. And I think fans appreciate when you're honest about the sports you don't know as well. I fully admit I don't know the NBA as well as I know other sports. I don't pretend to be an expert. I'll give opinions on things I pay attention to, but I don't pretend to be an expert on the NBA. I don't pretend to be an expert on the NFL draft. Most people that pretend to be experts are not. There's only a few people that are really good at that. That's their job. And so when Colin Cowherd pretends he's an expert on everything, he shouldn't even talk baseball. He barely ever does. He has no clue what he's talking about when he talks baseball. So, like, don't be a phony about it. Just say, to say draft picks, that is freaking embarrassing.
Hey, Director Steve just asked this question, and I'm assuming he's not the only one out there that doesn't know.
Yeah.
But will you explain why you can't trade draft picks in Major League Baseball as opposed to in other sports?
I don't know that there's a reason. I mean, you just can't.
I think it's against the. Is it in the CBA?
Yeah, no. I mean, it's just a rule. You can't do it. But even if you could, in theory, right? Because you now can trade. They changed a rule where there are
those like supplementary.
Yeah,
type
there are
picks,
some supplemental picks you could trade. I can't remember the exact rule. So there are some supplementary picks that you can trade. But the point is, there's never a trade in baseball that involves the key part is
Aaron
any
Savali
kind of,
for a third-round pick.
right?
That
involves. There are I can't remember now. There are one segment of draft picks that you can trade, but it's never a key part of any kind of trade. It's always a throw in when it happens now because they changed the rule a couple of years. But yeah, you can't trade. I don't know why. I think they originally put that in because they were worried that the big market teams who already have an advantage would just make such lopsided trades, by trading draft picks. I think that's why that was put in there originally. But there's never, it just doesn't happen in baseball. You just don't trade draft picks. And it's never, anyway, go ahead, Mike. Did you look something up?
No, I was trying to see that there's no like definition. I guess it's just in the CBA that
Yeah, it is.
you can't trade
again,
draft
I'm
picks.
pretty sure they did it because they didn't want the big market. The big market teams were already making one-sided trades.
I mean, it's
for
been
prospects.
like that forever. I don't
Forever,
recall
yeah.
as long as I've been. I mean, I'm
No, you've never been able
47
to trade
and I've
draft
never
picks.
seen.
Again, recently they changed some rule that there's. I can't remember what it is.
I think
now.
it has to do with like it's the money slots, isn't it? Or
That's
money.
what you can trade.
The money.
You can trade money towards foreign players because there's a cap on that.
Yeah.
And you could trade that. It's not. I knew there was something in that realm that you could trade.
Yeah.
But that's never a key part of a trade, and you certainly don't trade draft picks in baseball. So that's it. You just can't do it.
Steve
Not
Becker
allowed.
just sent us a little note that said it happened in 1965 when they officially banned the trading of draft picks. Then in 1985 it got strengthened when, quote, in response to the Expos dumping first-rounder Pete
Incaviglia.
in a one-sided trade with the Rangers because he refused to sign with Montreal.
Right.
I remember
So,
him.
Yeah.
Been like that for a
Power
while.
hitter.
Pete Incaviglia had a huge chest.
Yeah.
Look at Google Pete Incaviglia. He had this big barrel chest.
He probably hit 230 with 25 home runs. Which
Yeah, I
was
mean,
a lot
there were a
homers
lot of
back
guys
then.
like that then who would hit 30 homers.
Yeah.
You had Rob Deere.
Oh, yeah.
You had Glenn Allen Hill.
Big
Glenn
dude.
Allen Hill, good gracious.
He was huge, Pete Incaviglia.
Big dude. He's now an assistant coach at Oklahoma State.
What's fun? Like he was a big dude when there weren't that many big
Yeah.
dudes.
Yeah. You're right. The big hairy chest was always hanging
Oh
out
yeah,
with him.
right,
Yep.
exactly.